because we love encouraging people. We love seeing entrepreneurs build big things, but we also love to have you protect those things that you have built.
It's very rare that a guardian is going to be appointed for your minor kids. Like in estate planning, it's really big to be like, you know, if you get in a car crash on your drive home, what's going to happen? Where are your assets going to go? Who's going to get your kids? There's a lot of stupid people that have started law firms. That's what I tell myself is like, honestly, I've met people who are dumber than me who are doing it and being successful. So I'm like...
And then there's one other thing, doll, that you haven't mentioned.
What's that?
Hi, welcome back to another episode here of the Biz Boutique Business Inside Solutions. Today, I have a good friend, Diane Patrick with Patrick Law, estate and probate attorney. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Noemi. Thanks for having me.
Yay! It's so amazing to have you on. I'm really excited to have Diane on. Digna, as you can tell, is not with us today, but she's also a good friend of Digna with Dreamline Accounting. Diane has helped families and business owners navigate a lot of different chapters, right? And the things that life can bring. And we need to be prepared. And I know sometimes it can be really daunting. Some even say morbid, you know, to think about planning for your death, planning for your hereafter. So why not plan? We plan for our businesses. We do as much planning as we can for our families, for our vacations. I see some people plan a vacation and have an itinerary that is killer, but we fail to plan for, once we pass, for our demise, or not even that. What if we're incapacitated? If you are a family person, if you are a business owner, people depend on you, you need to have some sort of documents, some sort of plan into place. And that's where Diane comes into play. So I'm excited to dive deep with her and just get to hear her story, because she's had an amazing journey into getting into her own practice. She's been successful. And so Diane, tell us something about you.
Okay. Thanks so much, first of all, for having me on. I'm excited to be here. It's my first podcast episode ever. So bear with me, everyone. I'm new here. But yeah, like Noemi said, I have my own law firm here in Tampa, and I focus on estate planning and probate. So estate planning, I think sometimes when people hear those words, they literally have no idea what it means. They think maybe it's financial planning, or I'm going to help them with a budget or something like that. And it really doesn't have anything to do with, I mean, it's related, but what the main point of estate planning is making a plan for your assets for after you die. So how those assets are going to get to your family members. And a big kind of aspect of that is keeping them out of probate court. And so the documents that I'm typically helping people to create would be like a will or a trust, a power of attorney, healthcare directive. And if you have an effective plan in place, then it makes it so that when you pass away, all of your assets that you've spent your life, your estate that you've spent your life building is able to be transferred to your family members or whoever you want, whatever charity or beneficiary you choose, without having to go through probate court. So that was all a tangent. Going back to your question about
But that was a good tangent. And because there's so much in that by itself that we need to come back to that.
Yeah.
And all of those different little layers, because there's some really good nuggets that I think we need to expand on.
Yeah, and it's just one of those words that I feel like when people hear it, it's hard to know exactly what it means if you haven't done it.
A lot of people don't realize, I don't have an estate. They think of, and it's like, no, you own a home? Yeah. You need estate planning.
Yeah.
I
feel like the word estate brings to mind like some kind of like colonial like mansion or something. That's not what it's about. But I grew up mostly here in Tampa. I moved around a lot as a kid, but I moved here to Tampa when I was starting middle school. So I did middle school and high school here in Tampa. I went to Berkeley Prep over in like Town and Country area. And I know we've talked about this, but a big part of my kind of upbringing and my childhood was being raised in a very strict religion. So I was also raised in a really big family. I have 7 siblings. 2 parents, so family of 10. Can't fit in a suburban.
Estate. You have an estate.
Yeah. Yes. And so I left when I was 18. I went out to Utah to go to college, and then I stayed out there for law school as well. And then I moved straight back when I finished.
Okay.
Yeah. So moved back here in 2018, I think.
Okay.
And then I worked for a few years at a big law firm, like a national firm. They had like a satellite office here in Tampa, so I worked there. And then most recently, I worked at a small kind of local probate law firm, a 4-attorney firm up in like the Carrollwood area. And then I just launched my own firm a few months ago.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And that's why you're here, because you're a
right.
girl boss.
Yeah, man.
So proud of you, man. So proud of you. That was a big and bold step. But you did it. And you know what? You had the right people around you. You had encouragers. You had a vision, and you got it done. You know, because I know so many of us, we work in our fields, we work for corporate, we work for someone else, and we're afraid to take that dive, to take the next step, you know. And I know that there had to be a lot of planning into making sure all your, you know, T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and everything into place, especially in the legal field. You know, I mean, that's just a whole nother layer of everything. Yeah. But I'm just so proud of you for being so bold enough to do it.
Well, thank you.
And I wish more women in general would see the value in themselves. And it's like, hey, if I'm doing it for someone else, I've got the know-how, I've researched it, I've looked into, done my due diligence, right? That I can, if I wanted to, and if it's the right shoe for me, then I can do it, and I will do it. So bravo to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely scary, but I don't regret it. I'm glad I quit my job when I did. I'm glad I started my firm.
So what triggered that? What was that moment that Diane was like, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm gonna go ahead and start Patrick Law.
So it was a goal of mine for a long time, honestly, like for years before I did it. But I just wanted to have the background and the knowledge to be highly competent on my own. And some people will start a firm right out of law school. My former boss did that. And I considered it straight out of law school, but I really wanted the background of working at a firm, especially working at a small law firm gave me a really good kind of look behind the curtain of what it's like to run a firm and to manage clients. And I mean, I was doing a lot of things there that attorneys aren't typically doing. Like I was invoicing people and filing things just because you have to wear a lot of hats and there's not always someone who's going to kind of be that support. But at my former firm, things kind of started going south where I wasn't being treated what I felt was correctly. And we had these meetings every month where they would print out, there's a lot I could go into, but we had like billable hour requirements and amounts of money we were supposed to be generating for the firm and clients we were supposed to be bringing in, and they would print out a summary of it and have us read it aloud every month to the class, you know, the group, the firm. And every month I would sit in these meetings and look at these numbers and be like, why do I work for you? Like, if I'm bringing in clients, I'm generating money, like these people don't even care about you, like they know me. And like, it's one thing if I'm having a great experience and I love it there,
right, and
there's like the support there and whatever that makes it worthwhile to work there. But at the end of the day, I was like, you're not answering my questions, I'm answering your questions. And like, I would rather just do this for myself than stay in a place where they're treating me bad. So I would say it was always my kind of long-term goal to have my own practice. I was planning on working there longer. But once, I don't know, it's one of those things where like once you decide, like once I was like, you know what, this isn't the vibe anymore. I don't want to work here anymore. Then I just wanted to quit right away. But there were two, it was myself and another associate, and we became really good friends. We started around the same time, and she wanted to leave as well, because of kind of the firm culture or whatever. And so I waited until she was able to line up a job for herself, and then I quit to start my firm. Because I didn't want to leave her, you know,
team,
yeah, out. Well, I didn't want to leave her in a lurch of having to pick up all the pieces. So
just for that,
I tried to get her a job. She ended up, the one she went with, she got on her own, but I had her some interviews and got her hooked up, and then I quit as well. Peace.
Yeah. And it's, and it's one of those things that looking at your whole plate, right? It's not a law firm where the clients, they're being served to you because of the volume. You're actually having to go out there, market yourself, and get your own clients. Bring them back to a culture that you weren't satisfied with, and one that you really obviously felt disconnected from, and didn't represent you and the image that you were trying to portray to your clients.
Exactly.
So, and then add on the back end stuff of the reporting, the verbal reporting in front of, I can see how that would start filling up the barometer of I'm over this crap and getting you out the door. So once you made that decision and you just knew there was no going back, what were some of the things that you knew that you'd have to kind of investigate? Because it's actually, and I want to go back to this because you said something that I found to be very, very true. And it's something that I've done in my own experience. And it's, I want to start and be able to see everything. So you had the position where you not only were you the attorney, but like you were saying, you saw how the invoicing worked. You got to see a lot of different customers, all these different components. I think that is so crucial. It's great to have the deep pockets and be able just to, create it and put all the people in place. But I feel like the businesses that do spectacular, are the ones where, hey, the owner has been there. They've sat in your seat. They know the journey. So they're a little bit more appreciative of the employees. They understand with that, all the different positions. And so you got to experience that. And so now having your own firm, you're able to appreciate and you have the know-how, not only in the legal aspect, but in a lot of the behind the scenes of what goes on to it. But how did you prepare? And who did you surround yourself with? Who were you seeking advice as a person who gives legal advice? Because opening a business is a whole different beast, right? And Digna and I are huge about, hey, in our professions, we are the great doctors at what we do. But we also have to learn to be a good student when we're not,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about social media. Isis, who's amazing, she helps me out and she puts everything together, but I don't know. I heed her advice, same thing with my financial advisor. So what did you do? Who did you talk to prepare to be able to take that next step?
So, I Googled a lot of stuff. The internet taught me a lot of things, but I was asking, so in our networking group and just everyone I knew, I was like, who do you know who started a law firm and would they be willing to get a coffee or lunch with me and just talk about it?
Talk to the people who've done it.
That's who knows. Paul Ferreira was one of the first people who, the second I told our group.
We had Paul. Did you catch him?
Shout out to Paul.
He had a great episode. He was awesome.
Right when I said I was starting my own firm, he was like, okay, yeah, let's get together. I'm going to tell you what I wish I would have known. And there were several people. I think a lot of solo attorneys or small firm attorneys, they want to give back. They want to say like, hey, this software is great. This software is terrible. Get a company to help you with this. This is something you can do on your own. So that was incredibly helpful. And especially I found female solo attorneys are a wealth of knowledge. A lot of them have kind of similar experiences to me, and they're honestly happy to share if you ask. So I've felt a lot of support just from the local kind of professional female community. Love
it. But you seeked it. It wasn't like, oh, I want to do this. I'm just going to. You actually went to the people who have been successful in doing it and you were open to it. I want to hear, I want to learn from your experience. So I don't think you realize how awesome that is because so many people don't. And they try to do it themselves, and it's like, you don't have to. You don't have to rebuild the wheel. You always want to tailor it to you and make sense to you. But people have done it, right? Let's listen to those people. Let's tap in,
Yeah, so. I also have a couple of new friends I've made who are starting their firms right now too, which is a different type of support where we're all kind of
all in the same boat.
How do you do this? Like one of the first things I was like, where do I get my insurance through? Who's yours? How much did you pay? This is the code I got. Is that a good number? And
yes.
It's just good to know people who are kind of in the same position as well.
Yeah, and in that same journey. And, once you have, like, that's taking like a holistic approach, right? You're listening to the professionals that are doing it, that have done it, what their hindsight into what they've experienced, and now the people who are taking those steps too, and then challenges, and you can encourage each other because you can cry and laugh and celebrate together along with challenges. So once you got with the right people who encouraged you, who kind of told you the bewares, I wish I knew, what was the next steps? Was it just an easy, okay, let's go ahead and get connected with the tax accountant who's going to put this together, with the insurance person who's going to, like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was just basically a to-do list that I had to chug along at for a while before I felt like it was all kind of in place. But then I had several clients from my old firm who followed me, which I didn't ask for and I didn't anticipate, honestly, at all. Because it was a little bit messy when I left and I wasn't able to tell everyone I was leaving. Because the day I put in my notice, I was told to never come back. So it was a little messy.
It happens.
But I did have several clients who wanted to work with me, which I was honestly like really kind of humbled by. And so right at the start, I was having to do legal work too, which I mean, that's amazing, but I was having to work and then also be like, wait, but let me get like liability insurance.
Right.
They're like, okay, where can we meet? I'm like, oh, well, let me get somewhere that's not my house. You can't come to my house. I got kids. Yeah. So it was a lot going on all at the same time.
But that's awesome. And like you said, you're always appreciative of those clients who are like, I've had, Donnie and Ken Mill, shout out, from Lakeland, and 14 years we've had a relationship, and anything that I've moved, they have my personal number and they were like, where are you at? And so it's just, they're kind of more than clients now. They're part of my family, but I've had those, so I know the value of, it's a testament to how you have built a relationship with those individuals, because they don't just follow any attorney. They're not going to follow. They can get legal advice anywhere. Right? You can go get milk at the gas station. You can go to Publix. You can go to Aldi's, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to keep going to the store that you feel comfortable in, that's close to home, that's close to your heart, right? And so that's what they have found in you. And so good job, girl. Good job. And, their loss. Not only did they lose you as a wonderful attorney, they lost some clients that, But so now transitioning, you've established your business. Well, hold on, let's stop, because that's the professional side. How did that look on the personal side? I know your spouse, you've got little ones. What did that look like for the family?
Well, it's definitely a transition. I'm really lucky to have the support of my spouse. Health insurance, my spouse. Shout out to him. He's been really supportive. My kids are just confused. Like my daughter, she's 6. She's like, you're the boss now? I'm like, yeah. She's like, but who are you the boss of? She's like, well, no one can. I'm the boss of myself. She's like, you weren't your own boss before? Not really. I mean, sometimes I was, but not all the time, and not in some important ways. But I forget your question. They've been really supportive. It's been great. I'm able to obviously just have total control over my schedule, which is a really important thing to me. Especially, I mean, I have 3 young kids. My kids are 6, 4, and almost 2.
That's called a handful.
Yeah. I get comments from strangers all the time.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. And look at all that you've done with being a mom, so being a wife, because those are big hats to wear, and then to go into the transition, jump that boat, get into the deep waters, and I feel like you're treading, you're getting in your groove, and you're flourishing. So That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's exactly what we like to showcase here at the Biz Boutique. People who dream it and dare to do it. That just speaks volumes. So, getting back to the business side then, talking about the documents that are so necessary. One of the things that I wanted you to kind of just touch on, because so many people are like, oh, okay, a living testament, in case I die. But it's more than that. The healthcare surrogate. What if you become incapacitated? Like, it's not just about death, you guys, How many people do you know that, I've had a good friend who, because of COVID, was in a coma my age for 8 months.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So and a successful young lady. We don't think at this age something's going to happen to us, So the power of attorney would have helped them through that. Her sister, help her manage through that transition. The healthcare surrogate to make decisions, have a trusted person to make those decisions. So I wanted you to just kind of, and we don't have to go super in depth, but really, the difference between those basic documents that everybody should probably have in place, from the power of attorney to the healthcare surrogate, and what that means to an individual.
For sure. So, I think if you're 18 or over, you should have some type of estate plan in place. I typically recommend, if you're a parent, your kid's turning 18, just have them sign a power of attorney, have them sign a healthcare directive, if they're willing to, obviously, because if they do that, then it gives you, as the parent or as the power of attorney, the ability to, know things about them or speak on their behalf or interact with their financial institutions, or whatever powers they give you. Because once they turn 18, if they're legal adults, you don't have that anymore. If they, they are in a coma or whatever, the doctors don't have to talk to you about it. And there's family situations where you wouldn't want the doctors to be talking to the parent. So, there's a reason that it's set up that way. But if it's, a family dynamic where your kid would want you to know things or be involved, you should have a power of attorney. And then as you get older, and going back, a will as well. But as you get older, there are other things that can make sense to set up, like a trust to keep your assets out of probate court. But I think a lot of it is just people, they don't see the value in it, or they don't know the value in it because they've never seen the other side of it. So like me, I've seen probates that are a big mess and their families just waiting around for a year and paying all this money and honestly just waiting for the assets, and meanwhile it's a house that's sitting vacant, or it's money that's just sitting at the bank, or it's something that's in the unclaimed property fund because nobody can get access to it because they're waiting on the court. And that's, it sucks because you just lost a family member, you're grieving. It's bringing out oftentimes stress in your relationships and family dynamics that are getting a little bit stressed out. And then on top of it, it's like the financial side of it, where it's like, well, who has the money up front to pay for this, or are we gonna be reimbursed from the estate? And it can just be really messy and expensive and annoying for the family to have to deal with. So a lot of times after someone sees that, like if they've seen a probate in their family, that's when they're like, oh,
I want to avoid that.
Horrible. How do I not do that?
I want to avoid that.
But your worldview is limited to oftentimes the things that you have experienced or the things that you've been interested enough to find out about. Right. And everyone's just doing their best. And so that's why I think a lot of times people just it's not even on their radar, like something they should do. But it's really honestly heartbreaking sometimes because just a few weeks ago, I had a client who I was doing, I was supposed to be working on his wife's probate. His wife had passed away. And he's like old school. He wanted to sign everything like pen and paper.
Okay.
Because we can do like DocuSign or whatever, like online signing. But he was like, oh no, I want to sign on the paper. I'm like, okay. So stuff was like a little delayed. But meanwhile, he had some health problems and he was in the hospital, and then he was in like a rehab facility over the holidays. And his daughter contacted me and said, like, my dad's in this, this care facility and he doesn't have a power of attorney. Like, can you do that for him? And also, like, can you mail it to us? Or, like, this is where he is. How are we going to get it? And it was, like, right down the street from my house. So I was like, oh, of course I'll do it and I'll bring it to you and I'll have him sign it. And so we did that. And then, like, while I was there, this person came in from the hallway and was like, oh, you're an attorney. This lady across the hall really needs to talk to you. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, I'll be there in a minute. It's weird. Usually it's like, we need a doctor in here, not like we need a lawyer in here. But when I finished with the guy's documents, I went across the hall and the lady was like, I tried to go to the bank. They gave me this. She had like a blank power of attorney. And she was like, I need to fill this out. And I was like, okay, but like, what's the situation? Why do you need to fill it out? And she was like, my husband is incapacitated. I can't remember exactly her husband. It was, I think he was in a coma or something like that. And she didn't have access to any of his stuff. And so she'd gone to the bank and they don't know what they're talking about. They're like, oh, you need a power of attorney, but the guy can't sign a power of attorney if he's asleep or incapacitated or has dementia or whatever. Yes. He doesn't know what's going on. And like, it was sad for me. Like, I shouldn't have to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, you can't fill this out for him. Yeah. He has to be able to sign it himself. Like, can he sign it? And she was like, oh no, definitely not. Like, he can't do anything. Like, he can't even hold a pen or he can't even understand. And I was like, I'm really sorry. I can't, like, you can't, this isn't going to be a solution for you right now. You'd have to like get guardianship over him, which is a whole different thing. But like a power of attorney they're usually like, 5 pages long. You make some choices, initial it a few times, like sign it and have it notarized and you're done. They're pretty cheap and easy to do is my point. But if you don't, then you can end up in this type of situation where your spouse...
Guardianship, let me tell you, because I worked for credit union, trust and estate planning for 12 years, a court can assign you a guardian.
Mm-hmm. The court has to.
So at that point, because we're not taking the initiative of having the power of being able to designate and put these things into motion, we're negating and letting someone who doesn't know us, doesn't know our situation, assign someone to be the guardian making decisions on our behalf, on our assets, on our health.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's true.
Because you touched on the guardian and that...
Like, if you have a family member or whoever who wants to be your guardian, they can petition to become your guardian. They can petition. But it always has to go through the court. And if you don't have a family member like that, then there's movies. There's movies about such situations, but there are people who are strangers to you who are in charge of your care. And I always tell people that if you don't make a plan, there's a plan for you, but it's just the one the government made. That's right. And they don't know your situation. It's literally just the same exact plan for everybody. So sometimes it'll be what you wanted, maybe, but it's never going to be exactly what you wanted because it's always going to have to go through the court system. Mm-hmm. So even if it's like a very straightforward family dynamic where it's like, husband, wife, first marriage for both of them, kids are from both of them, everything goes to the kids, like that is the order that the court would default to if you don't do estate planning, but it's still gonna have to go through probate. That's right. And so your family's still paying, 7% of your estate value just to get to your stuff, and they're waiting around for a year. And they're waiting for God knows how long. But I will say a couple of things just popped into my head because I got so emotional about the whole guardianship, and it just reminds me of a dear client that we dealt with. The trust company through the credit union was the appointed a trustee of what the court awarded him. He was so the gentleman, and this is to all of my people who are not born in the United States and come here, which is great, right? So he'd come from overseas, and it was just himself, young man, working and all that, and became incapacitated because of a vehicle accident. And so since all of his family was in South America, the court had to assign a guardian here
and it was a mess. And then, so, I mean, we were able to work and get mom, and he ended up being quadriplegic. I mean, they had a whole little zip line across the house that we were able, to do as the trustees and stuff, make sure that he was taken care of, have mom come in. But guess what? If mom said, hey, I want to do this and this for my son, she had to go through us as a trustee. She had to go through the guardian. And that's what I'm so passionate about this, guys, because I saw it firsthand, and it just made me realize the value of saying, hey, I'm able-bodied. I work hard for what I have. I'm going to designate. I hope it doesn't happen to me tomorrow, but if something happens, I'm taking my life and the power to be able to say, this is how I want things done.
Right.
This is how I would like things done. And as someone who was a single mom for 14 years, you better believe I had my estate. I had all of my life insurance to the trust, beneficiary for my son, and then I had a trustee to manage those funds for him. If you graduate with this GPA, if you get a little something, you can tweak it and personalize as much as you want. But even in being incapacitated, like that gentleman that can't even sign, and our heart breaks for people in that situation, because there really isn't anything else as far as, it's like, no, now we have to follow this other set, and it's not going to be a short, easy. There's a process. The easy way to do it is to do it now while you're able-bodied, can make your decision and get it in writing.
Yep.
There was another thing that I wanted you to go over, because we were talking about, hi, mom and dad. We had done mom and dads about 10, 15 years. And it's like, it's probably time to update that verbiage. Another thing that I hear people, because, people want to pay for what they want to pay for. I see people who pay for Rent-A-Rim, but then they carry 1020 on their insurance. And it's like, so you've got this fancy car, but you have the crappiest insurance if you injure someone. I feel it's the same way when it comes to your financials and to your legal documents. And so a lot of people were like, I just got this form on the internet. Pro se. That's what they're called, pro se forms. And you just get someone to notarize it. I can't express to you how many times we saw stuff that someone downloaded. The verbiage is not for the right state. It's 10 years outdated. What do you have to say about that?
So I actually have a lot of experience with online forms, because I don't know if you've heard of LegalZoom, but they're kind of the leader in this type of technology. And if you go on their website, you can, like, I want to start a business, I want to do a trust, whatever. And they'll do the forms for you. It's like literally just fill in the blank. You fill in the blanks, and then it creates the document for you. But there's a little button on there that says, like, talk to an attorney. And I think you maybe pay extra for, like, a subscription or something to be able to talk to an attorney. And my first law firm had a relationship, I don't know exactly, they had a relationship with LegalZoom where we were the attorneys. So
that they called.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is like, I'm straight out of law school, and you could schedule a call with me on LegalZoom to go over your trust. So I've seen literally, I don't know, 5,000 of these LegalZoom trusts, and I've talked to the people about, like, okay, why did you put this? Why did you select this? Do you know what this means? And it's not that people are stupid. They're not stupid, but the kind of the way that it's formatted, it's not a real person. It's a computer. So it doesn't understand kind of your intent behind it. And sometimes people don't understand the prompt exactly, so they put in the wrong information. And then when it generates, like, the legalese, they don't know what it means, or it doesn't match what they wanted. So they end up on the phone with me, and I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't what you wanted. Like, do you want your spouse to be able to make changes to this after you die? Like, yes or no, because the way you have it, it's totally locked up where your spouse can't do anything. And they're like, oh, no, that's not what I said.
And that's a huge one.
What it is. What you said.
Revocable, irrevocable. That's a big one.
And so I'm not saying it's impossible to do it correctly. I think it is possible to do it correctly, and you could save yourself $1,000 maybe if you do it correctly. But most of them, I mean, every single one that I saw, which was a ton, I would find mistakes in, and I would have things to bring to the people's attention, and they would say that's not what I wanted or whatever. There's also like people would always try to just add in things that weren't part of it. Like there was kind of a, maybe I'm going too much in detail. There was like an additional.
No, tell.
For the trust on LegalZoom, there's a part that said like additional instructions for trustee, which was just like kind of vague. And I don't think it's a great section to have in your trust, but they had this kind of like additional instructions, and people would just write in anything. So they would put in like, you know, my kid gets distributions when they're 18. And then in the additional instructions, they would say, give my kid money for their house, give my kid money for their car, don't let him get divorced, and if he does, then his wife doesn't. Like, they would just make stuff up in there, and it would oftentimes it would contradict other parts, or it would be something that you can't even do. And I would look at it and be like, this isn't going to be enforceable. Like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
You think that this is going to work, but it's not.
Yeah.
And again, I'm seeing a very small percentage of the ones that go through, because it's only the people that are
hitting the button that talk to an attorney.
Yeah, they're taking the time out of their day to actually go over it, which I think most people that are using an online form, they're not doing that. They're just kind of like, click through the button, whatever, sure, it's fine, sign it, and then file it away to be litigated in 20 years. We also had a litigation case at my last firm of a fill-in-the-blank will, where the person had, basically it said like, I leave everything in my estate to the following people, but he had only put in cash amounts. So he put in like this much money to my girlfriend, this much money to my brother, or whatever, but it didn't say anything but cash. And then when he died, he didn't really have much cash, but he had a house. So then it's, well, who gets the house? Because in the will, it doesn't say.
Wow.
And every will that makes any sense says, there's a provision that says everything left over goes to these people. Right. So there's kind of like a catch-all of like, you can list out whatever you want, but then you want to say, and anything else that I own when I die goes to these people. But that will didn't have one because the guy just filled it in, he didn't know. So then his house was litigated.
Wow.
10 years after he wrote it or whatever.
Well, and then to add to the layer of, other things that I've seen with those documents is you save your family so much grief and possible a divorced family, because and it was just curious to me, because I always wonder, I'm like, why are people appointing us as a trust company to manage their trust? Don't they have someone? I quickly learned, Diane, why in certain sense, and it is a good thing to have an appointed trust company, because some families, they may be lovely family, and they may have the best intentions, but let me tell you, when you get financials in there, when you get a property, that's the family property, you can't sell. It's not what you want, it's not what did that person want, what was their intention. So there's a lot of emotions when someone passes away, and when you're grieving, save your family the pain, the strife of going through that and having to figure that out, and let them just be able to mourn you. That was one of my biggest things with my family. I'm like, listen, guys, there's a lot of us, right? We may all have very different visions of what we want to happen when you pass. So we need to know what you want. This is your life. If it were up to me, I'd cremate everybody.
Me too. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Just cremate everybody, Yeah. I know my parents feel very differently about that, So you need to put it in writing. What is it that you want? And if that's something that you're not comfortable with, then put it in writing so we all know and we execute according to your wishes, right? And so I did want to go back, because I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I haven't done this. But so as a single mom, I have my trust and all of that, and I have my power of attorney. My son's going to be 21 this March. Guess what his birthday present's going to be? A visit to Diane.
Nice.
March 12th, okay?
A cupcake for him.
Well, because that's something to consider, guys. Even someone like me who has tried to do their due diligence, and mind you, I'm not an attorney. It's just many moons ago, I just happened to work at, a credit union, and I got my licenses for the trust and investment department, but that's not my field of expertise. I just have a little bit more knowledge than your average Joe, but nothing so to hear you say, oh, when they turn 18, it's like, oh my goodness, how did I miss that? How did I not catch that? And that's super important because my son owns a home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has ownership, so we need to get his things updated. So yeah, I'm gonna refer myself. D&I referral. So I think those were really good things to discuss. One, the right documents, the things that it can help you avoid. As a business owner, I also think that there's another layer because we talked about protecting your family, right? Making sure that your assets go the way that you're wanting them pointed. But I feel that there's a special layer when you are an entrepreneur, when you're a business owner. And now it's not just your own personal assets, but your business. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that might look like for a business owner?
Yeah. So basically, most people, when they set up their business, they get their LLC, they go get a bank account, whatever, they file it with the state, and then they start working, and they're working hard. They don't make a plan for what's going to happen when you die. Something that is easy to do, and this is good to do if you're just a person with a bank account, you can put a beneficiary on your bank account, keep it out of probate. It's kind of like, I don't know,
the simplest.
Easy built-in estate planning for that one asset. But if you have a business account, you can't put a beneficiary on it because your business doesn't die. So if you are the only person authorized to act on behalf of your business and you die, then you've created a problem for your family because even if it's a business that's just you, like let's say you're a math tutor or something, you work for yourself, you tutor in math, you make bank, you have $100,000 just sitting at Wells Fargo under the name of your business, and you die, your family can't even just go get the money because it's under the name of your business and they don't own your business. So then they're looking at a probate to just get access to your business. You can put a business into a trust. You can also do a business succession plan for your business. Both of those would keep it out of probate. And there can be some really messy situations, especially if it's like partnerships where one partner passes away, then usually like their spouse or their family member or whatever inherits their interest in the company but not their voting rights. So a lot of times the remaining partner can kind of, I've seen it firsthand where the remaining partner is like, oh whoops, we didn't really make a profit. Do you like my new boat? Or and it's sad because like I had a guy who came to talk to me. He said like his dad had this really successful business. His dad passed away. He had a partner, and the partner was like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of your mom. We'll send her share, whatever. But then he didn't at all. It's like, oh, we're not making profits anymore. And meanwhile, there's this lady who for a decade has been putting in the hours at this company without getting a real paycheck because it was her husband's company and whatever. It's the family business. She's working hard, but she's not really getting paid for it, like in a fair kind of way.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, she's getting screwed out of the actual business after her husband died because it wasn't really like structured correctly.
So
again, it's one of those things where like people don't think about it, and if you haven't seen it, then it's hard to even like know that it's something that should be on your radar.
But if it's something that you've done your due diligence in building, your sweat, your tears, your time, your family members, because usually there is that family or, you have somebody supporting you, protect that. Protect your business, if something happens to you. And again, it's not just about death, you guys. The minute you become incapacitated, it triggers so many things. So, if you're like, I'm the king of the world, I'm going to live forever. Yeah, you may. It just may be in a coma. Like there's so many things that can happen to us. And in the last few years, we've seen, new different waves hit, so you just never know. And the best thing to do is to be prepared, right? Protect yourself, protect your family. You have control. you have the power to make those decisions and put things and line them up. Don't negate that.
Right. And I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyway.
That's right.
Like whether it's incapacitation or just your death someday, like those things will happen. And then something's going to happen with your assets, but you can choose now to decide what happens with them, or it's just going to be kind of the built-in plan that the government has. And something a lot of people don't really realize about that is that it's not a process that just happens automatically when you die. Someone has to file a probate for you. And if nobody does that, then your money is just going to sit at the bank until it's sat there long enough that the bank gives it to the Florida Unclaimed Property Registry. Then it's going to sit there until some like shark sends a letter to your family that's like, hey, there's
money sitting in this.
There's people, that's their job is to find this money, and then you can. What is it? Florida Treasure?
Yes.
What's that? Florida Treasure
I think
Hunt or something?
No,
it's something
gov.
like that.
It is Florida Treasure. We're gonna find it. The lovely Isis is also gonna put it on the description box.
Anyway, there's a website where you can go on and
Unclaimed
just
property.
search unclaimed property.
But it's through the Department of Treasury Yes.
So the whole point there, though, is that it's not just that your money goes to your family when you die without them taking active steps to file a probate and get to it. And that doesn't always happen. And I've seen cases where there's like, there's a lawsuit. Maybe someone has like a personal injury settlement coming to them, but then they die. Then that money, like I've seen, 80 grand, 100 grand is just sitting there kind of like earmarked for them, but they're dead. And their family is, they're sad and they don't know about it, or they don't know the details, or they don't know how to get it. So then I'm thinking of a specific example. They got a letter from somebody that said, this money's in the Unclaimed Property Registry. Then I had to do the probate for it. But at that point, like, it was a mess because the beneficiaries are like, they moved away, or one of them's in jail, or they're hard to find. And I mean, it's either way, then it's going to be a whole court process and more cost and more time to be able to get to it. Where
it could all be avoided.
Yeah. I'll be avoided.
Let's just, and it's something that I think would be a beautiful, holiday, Christmas present to your family, to your spouse, to your, hey guys, in preparation of, and that's what we ended up doing. We just had a family meeting and we're like, hey, this is not to be a Debbie Downer, but this is how much we love you, that we want this to be no stress on you. God forbid something happens. If we become incapacitated, this is everything. Here's where the documents are. You get a copy, if the demise of Noemi, this is what's to happen. There's already a plan. You don't have to break your head trying to figure it out. It takes a lot off of a family. And it's empowering to know, hey, I've set you up for success, even upon my demise, my, incapacitation. So I think this is super, super important conversation to have, because we love encouraging people. We love seeing entrepreneurs build big things. But we also love to have you protect those things that you have built, and protect your loved ones with the things that you have built. And you have the power, guys, make sure you look at your budget and have consultations with the right, because I also feel, let's talk a little bit about choosing the right attorney. Diane's going to be like, get me out of here, girl. But choosing the right attorney, because sometimes they just go to the first person. And I feel like it's a relationship. You really have to, you have to love it. Because they are the people who are going to understand. They're the people who your family's going to go to when something happens to you.
Yeah.
Hey, I got these documents, and to have that conversation is like, well, no, I know that this is what she wanted. This is how she worded it. Here's her documents. And you have to have, that vibe. So how do you feel you pick your clients? Because sometimes you're going to have to negate, or say, oh, I don't think we're a good fit either. So talk a little bit about that, because you've had clients that you said have followed you because you were able to have that relationship.
I think something that I kind of differ in opinion on from a lot of attorneys is I try to just talk to people like normally,
Mm.
where a lot of attorneys, they like to think like, oh, I'm not like I'm better than you, but like I'm so smart, you should pay me more because I'm so smart. And to prove that I'm so smart, I'm gonna like kind of explain things in a way that seems confusing.
And talk over your head.
Yeah, so that it's
legal.
exactly. And like when they draft something, it's just like worded really like jargony, so it's hard for people to understand. And I think, I mean, people are just arrogant, first of all, but also it's like, this is how I'm going to show you that I'm smart. I'm going to show you I'm smart by being hard to understand, where I don't agree with that. And I think that people appreciate it.
Yes.
Like, I'll explain something to you, not like you're stupid, but like you're just a smart person who hasn't learned these things.
Right.
And that's what my background is, so I can explain it to you, but not, again, just like kind of leveling with people. I think when choosing an attorney, you should choose someone who will respond to you in a fast manner. Like if they're responding to your emails, you know, they call you back. Maybe they don't answer, but they return your call, they return your emails, they get in touch with you, they tell you what's happening with your case or your documents, they tell you what to expect. I've seen it done very badly where people are like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. You know, I don't know what the next step is. I don't know where this is going. So that's something I try to do, is just kind of keep people updated. For estate planning specifically, I think it's really useful to pick someone who does probate as well, or has done probate and even has litigated probates, because that's huge. I think that's how you learn how to do the planning, is you see what doesn't work.
Yes.
Almost, so you learn how to plan around things. Or you just have the stories to tell people, or you've seen like, this is what's going to happen if you don't do it. That just made me think another thing a lot of attorneys will do is they'll use a lot of kind of like shame and fear tactics to get people to do things. Like in estate planning, it's really big to be like, you know, if you get in a car crash on your drive home, what's going to happen? Where are your assets going to go? Who's going to get your kids? And I don't really agree with that. I like to level with people. Again, like I tell people this all the time, it's very rare that a guardian is going to be appointed for your minor kids. Like, it can happen, and you shouldn't put in your will who their guardian will be, but it doesn't have to be like this.
Right. Daunting.
Right, because that's, I think, again, a lot of attorneys will be like,
that's a car salesman approach, you know?
Right, your plane's gonna crash, then what's gonna happen? And I like to tell people, like, listen, it's really rare that both spouses pass away or both parents pass away while their kid's a minor. It's, you know,
right.
90, I don't know the exact percentage. I'm guessing over like 98% of the time, your child will have one of their parents until they're at least 18. But in the small chance that your kid ends up in that situation, you want to have a plan for them so that you're choosing who gets custody of them. But it's kind of...
And instead of the fear, an empowering thing. You have the right to decide. You can decide, and if something happens to you, you already know it's there. Yeah. Instead of using that fear tactic.
Exactly. So I don't try to like upsell people. I also have flat fee pricing, so I'm not charging them by the hour. That's something I hated my former job, is like, you know, a client has a question, they call and I talk to them on the phone for 20 minutes, then I have to bill them for 20 minutes.
That's right.
Where if I want to answer their question better and it takes 30 minutes, then I got to bill them for 30 minutes.
That's right.
And it kind of like creates an incentive to work, worse, I think.
Yeah.
Like either to just take longer to do things because then the firm makes more money, or just to kind of be like inefficient. Or also, if the client's trying to keep their bill down, then to not give them updates, or, you know, not reach out to them proactively, because then you're going to bill them.
Right.
So the flat fee pricing just gets rid of all of that, where it's like, listen, this is the price, and I'll do all the work necessary to get you to the end result that you want, and kind of like, that's it.
Yeah, the transparency of it. And then there's one other thing, doll, that you haven't mentioned.
What's that?
Que Diane aquí habla español.
Ah, sí.
Me encanta. So, hasta para mi gente habla español, mi gente hispana, ella los puede ayudar. So you are just like the full package.
Oh,
I love it.
People never expect it from me. When I start speaking Spanish, they're like, wait a second.
Oh yes, by the way, what we said is that she speaks Spanish.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys got that though, right?
Yeah. Everyone does.
So I think that's awesome. We've covered a lot. Before I let you go, I have to ask, what advice do you have for that attorney that's, either just graduated or has worked at that law firm and is thinking to themselves that they can do it, that they think that they can make it on their own. Or words of encouragement, or, hey, just, I wish I would have known this too. What are your thoughts that you could share with our listeners?
I would say if you want to do it, you can. There's a lot of stupid people that have started law firms. That's what I tell myself is like, honestly, I've met people who are dumber than me who are doing it and being successful. So I'm like, well, like if they can do it, you can definitely do it. I do think it takes kind of like a different type of, I don't know, personality or drive. Like if it has to be something you actually want, not just like, I want more flexibility. Like you can find a job with more flexibility. Yeah. It's more like if you have that desire to actually go through all the work of setting it up, then I think definitely anybody can. I mean, anybody competent can do it. If you've passed the bar, it's pretty hard, so you can probably do it. There is, I would say, a huge support network that is here in Tampa and probably wherever you live. I don't know. But here in Tampa, there is a really great kind of network of solo attorneys where a good thing about law is there's so many different practice areas that there's very often questions that people have that's a different practice area that I can refer out to other attorneys, and then the same thing when they get things that are my practice area, they can send it back. So if you can get yourself dialed into a network like that or create it for yourself, then you can do it. Yeah.
No, so that's great. Surround yourself with colleagues, right? That have done it like you did. You saw the people, you went around and you asked, what attorneys do you know that went out on their own? And then get into the networking groups that can connect you. I know Paul had mentioned, he had talked about that he's part of one for the different attorneys and they're nationwide, and so it's kind of cool to see people from his same practice and, you build those relationships, which is nice. And then your client moves from out of state, you can refer them to, the out of state person or what have you, get those in, but you have, because you need the support. I mean, it's great to have the support of your family, but y'all know, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, it's when you have someone who has been there, done that through that business journey, another attorney that's like, I know what you mean, like, oh my word. It's just different type of support, and don't be a hermit, right? Yeah. Go out there, make the connections, and contact the Biz Boutique, Business Insight Solutions. We'll plug you into Diane, to Paul. That's what we're here for. We want to elevate you guys. We want to give you those resources to help you take it to the next level. No matter what stage you're at, no matter what questions you have, we have the right professionals. We've built a very nice network of individuals that are experts in their own fields. We don't say that we know it all. Diane does her estate, her probate. We have Digna with the accounting. So we've taken the approach for a business owner. What is it exactly that, from start to end, what is it that we would need to be successful? What did we need when we needed a business, when we exited a business? And we established a very net, close group of top professionals that we're open and we're here for you. And so Diane is here for you as well, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area, throughout the state of Florida, really. Mm-hmm. She's happy because she's also virtual.
That's right.
And Espanol, don't forget that. Yeah. Diane, how can people get a hold of you?
So my website is dpatricklaw.com. My email is diane@dpatricklaw.com. I have an Instagram, which is Plan with Diane. It's new.
I love it.
It's me, even though it only has like
I love it. Plan with Diane. Blow her up. Plan with Diane.
You can follow me there. Or you can schedule a consult with me through my website.
Very nice. So you've heard it here. She's also on the bizboutique.com. There's many ways that you can connect with her. We're happy to make that connection, get you informed, get you taken care of, your loved ones taken care of, your businesses taken care of, so that everything that you've worked so hard to reach thus far is protected.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be a resource to people. So if you do have a question, if you don't know if it's my practice area or you need a referral, you can definitely reach out to me. One of the kind of big reasons I wanted to go on my own is to be able to honestly just do whatever I want. And one of those things is giving back to the community, especially if you're a woman who owns a business and you need help, you don't know the next step, you don't know who to talk to. I know a lot of really incredible women who can help you. So please feel free to send me an email or schedule a call with me, and I would love to help.
I love your heart. I love your passion. I love your drive. And I can't wait to see all the awesome things that Patrick Law is going to be doing.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Till next time, guys. Don't forget thebizboutique.com. We appreciate y'all, and to the next time.